Thanks for dropping in. I'm Rick from Wetblasting.com. I am the distributor for Vixen surface treatments equipment here in the United States. We're going to shoot a series of videos which I call Wet Blasting 101. I get a lot of questions about things with the machines. The pumps, how to operate in general, what's the difference between wet blasting and dry blasting, what media should I use on a certain substrate, do I need to clean the parts before they go in the machine, how much media goes in the machine. We're going to cover those kind of things. I've got a series that'll be coming up after this. Again, this is video number 1, but Rick at wetblasting.com. Please just send me your advice on what you want me to cover. Today's lesson is going to be on the pump. The heart of the Vixen pump, the heart of any wet blasting machine is the pump. You've got to have a pump designed from the ground up to pump heavy media, high concentration. It's got to have flow, got to have a lot of horsepower behind it. That's what a Vixen pump is. Other people use off-the-shelf pumps, and they get by, but they're just not going to last. They're not tough pumps designed to do what's necessary for this kind of blasting. Let's go take a look at the inside of the pump. Let's take a look at the heart of the Vixen machine on the bench here. We'll start off with, you can see the assembly is quite large. This is a really powerful and strong pump, puts out a lot of flow and with really good pressure. A lot of manufacturers have very small pumps. They basically just get the slurry up to the gun and then they let the air do the work, which is good. You're still going to get some velocity. But if you don't have a really powerful pump, you're not going to get a lot of flow with that pressure. Hence, you're not going to get a lot of productivity. It's a 5 horsepower motor. A lot of other manufacturers just use a half horsepower. So this is a really strong pump. These are wound specially for US voltages. It's got a long extension shaft, which is part of the bearing assembly here, so there's no couplings, so you have true running on the impeller. I'll show you that when I pull it apart. You can see the beefy structure here, all heavy gauge stainless steel, and here's the real component that makes it all happen, and that's a urethane housing and wear plate and impeller. Very thick walls, I'll show you that in a second. Let's just take this apart. Normally there's a coarse perforated heavy-duty intake strainer here. I've removed that and the bolts just to make this quicker. You can see the wall thicknesses here. This is a really tough urethane. It's a really special design that Vixen came up with. Again, you want to build pressure and you want to have that flow at pressure. This thing puts out about 35 psi. You're force feeding a lot of that slurry, and then the air is imparted, so you have a lot of flow. And I kind of akin it to a little bit of like a dry suction machine and a dry pressure machine. You're going to get a lot more work out of a direct pressure machine because you're forcing a lot of media into the airstream. So the pattern on the blast gun is very large and makes a Vixen very productive. Let's take a look at the wall thicknesses here. This is your housing. Look at that. Look at that. That's probably about 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch thick there. Again, you have just an extension shaft that is part of the assembly in the motor so that you have no couplings. A lot of manufacturers will buy a off-the-shelf motor and they'll put a coupling here. And the problem with that is you end up getting run out here. Once you start to get run out, you're going to wear on these bearings here and you're going to have a problem later in the future. And if they didn't go far enough here with the urethane, and as tough as it is, we went the extra mile, and Vixen worked with the chemists at the urethane place, and we came up with a tougher urethane even. So we call this our heavy duty series. So if you're pumping, say, 80 aluminum oxide, you're running 2 shifts a day, or even silicon carbide, this pump, in my lab, I have pumped 36 silicon carbide. That is really an application for dry, but because the Vixen pump is so strong, I was able to do that. It was a medical instrument company that needed to have a really good grip, but they didn't want to impregnate into the surface, and the Vixen pump did it. So you want to make sure that you have a true industrial pump. You don't have an industrial machine if you don't have an industrial pump. So you want no packings, no seals. You want it submerged. You want it made out of urethane. You want a very large motor on it. You want high output as far as flow and pressure goes. And ask to see the pump with other manufacturers. that covers the basics of a true industrial slurry pump. That's a Vixen pump. If you have any questions, rick@wetblasting.com. Please just send me an email. I'll get back to you. And look for the next videos. We'll be shooting a lot more over the next couple of months. Thanks a lot for stopping in.